It's 6 o'clock, so I will call tonight's meeting of the Mobility and Transportation Advisory Board to order, and we will start with a roll call of the attendees. Charlotte Ford.
Here.
Bob Garrity.
Here.
Lisa Herm.
Here.
Taryn Malaby-Bab.
Here.
John Reagan.
Here.
Brooke Webb.
Here.
Right. Oh, and Aaron, you snuck in on me. Aaron Lau.
Here.
All right. I don't believe we have any board members online, so Rudy Sukol is absent. In his stead, we have Chief Haberman and a commission liaison, Andrew Flynn, and our representative from Gateway Engineers. First order of business, meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the January 6th meeting minutes?
I'll motion to approve.
All right. Any second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I would like to discuss.
Go ahead, John.
Ms. Alicia Locker's comment in the minutes is listed as being with regard to speeding, driver behavior. And maybe that was the case. But my notes seem to, what I got out of it was she was complaining about abject lack of pedestrian infrastructure. Maybe both those things are true, but my notes say the one.
Is that Gilkinson? Is she
Gilkinson,
yes.
Okay.
I mean, I think they were both and, so I don't, would you like to, do you have a statement you'd like to amend the minutes to be more pedestrian focused?
I think I would be comfortable amending it, supporting an amendment to have it as written, comma, and lack of pedestrian infrastructure.
Any other discussion? I'm happy to vote to approve that with John's recommended amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. We will start with citizen comments, which I believe in the room we only have one. And it looks like we have one attendee online. I'm not sure if you're online and you want to make public comments, please raise your hand. And but we will start with folks in the room. You'll have 5 minutes to address the board. Please state your name and address, and please come to the front of the room, starting with David Egler.
A little map to hand out. I won't have enough copies for everybody.
We can make copies and scan it in, yeah.
Maybe just share. And if you don't need them today, I'd like to have them back, because I'm going to probably use them for a commission meeting down the road here, so.
Really?
See me again.
Oh, I know where this is, okay.
Thank you.
Before I start out, that just to let you know where that map is in that location, it's near the medical rescue, if you know the area, Cypress Way and Poplar Drive. So, okay, my name is David Egler, 121 Poplar Drive. And the reason why I'm here is, if you notice on your little maps, I kind of did a yellow blotch. It's basically showing where the streetlights are in that area. And what I'm requesting is, if you look over Cypress Way, kind of goes into like an alleyway. There's a light right there, which is fine. It's like I'll call it an intersection, a T intersection. But about 30 feet from there is another street light. It's probably the closest street lights together in the whole town. And if you notice, as you go up towards Castle Shannon Boulevard, at that intersection, there is no street light. And to make a long story short, what my request is to have the street light that's close to Cypress Way moved up to that intersection. One of the reasons is, I'll give you a little example that ran into me. I live on Poplar Drive, so I turn up that way quite a bit. One evening, a wet, rainy day, typical, dark night, I was driving down the road, hard to see, and I make a left to go up my street. And when I made the left, I'm trying to see. And as I pulled on the Poplar, I heard a bang on the side of my car. Here was a resident crossing the road who I couldn't see. And he saw me coming and stopped and then banged the side of my car. And startled me, and one window down, he yelled at me, and I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't see you." And like I said, it was a dark night, raining, and he was wearing all black. No reflectors whatsoever. And like I said, if there would have been a light there, it would have helped me see him. His comment to me was, "Didn't you see me?" And I'm like, "No, there's no light. My headlights were not shining on him as I turned." So like I said, what I'm requesting is, and I'm going to go see the commissioners on next week, and talk to them about it also. But where I showed those 4 lights, the one that's kind of off the map on some of yours is at Spruceton Avenue on that corner. And that road gets very little traffic, yet it has a light there. Whereas Poplar, Poplar or Castle Shannon Boulevard, that is a busy intersection. Many people use it as the cut through to get down on the Castle Shannon Boulevard and to go up through Mission Hills. So that's basically the long and short of it. Is there any questions from anybody about anything here?
Dave, for my clarification, you're not talking about traffic lights, you're talking about street lights.
Streetlights, yes. And I was told, when I came up with streetlights, I said, by going to the commission, they said, well, you should go to a board first. And I know that's typical things. And I'm like, well, who handles streetlights? And I was told that this is the board that would take care of that since it's over the streets. And I see a nod there from the commission.
Well, I think that makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does to me.
So, I kind of look at this as a common sense thing of not adding any cost down the road because it's the same amount of lights. I notice here in Mount Lebanon, you have like 983 lights like at intersections, different places. And as far as mid-block lights, which that one would be considered mid-block, you have basically around 500 lights in Mount Lebanon. And I'm just requesting that mid-block light to be moved onto the corner. It would be a lot more efficient and just makes sense.
And so it's literally you're suggesting, just to make it as simple as possible,
Yes.
the light that is currently attached to the telephone pole where you have it indicated mid-block, you want to go one light pole up,
Yes.
or one utility pole up.
Yeah, that's about
That is
another.
at the corner.
Yeah, it's about another 60 feet. It's about 20 feet from Cypress Way to that other light. They're very close together, and then like double that distance to that corner. That's all I'm requesting, take it off at one pole and move it up. And if anybody complains, a lot of people say, oh, light in the windows, it's right near the house, near their windows as where it is. So there shouldn't be any complaints from the residents there. I would hope not.
I think my only question would be for staff, which is, do we have, and you might even know, do we have the authority to?
It would be a
Adjust
request to
those.
Duquesne Light, because you pay a rental fee for the lights, you pay per light on the wattage.
It's their light, but they would have to move it.
Yes. It would be just a matter of a phone call to them, but Mount Lebanon, of course, and the commissioners would have to agree, and if they're agreed to move it, and there would probably be a charge from Duquesne Light, a one-time charge.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Oh, anybody not want their coffee?
Thank you.
I'm thinking everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We can add that item under new business and we'll discuss and vote on it at that juncture. I see an individual with their hand raised online, Dave Kraut. We will unmute and then you'll have 5 minutes to speak, and please state your name and address.
Hi, Dave Kraut, 651 Royce Avenue. And I really just have a comment, maybe a suggestion. After all the snow we had, I did a fair amount of walking around my neighborhood in the days after the snowfall. And in general, it seemed like the neighbors did a good job in clearing sidewalks. The thing I found that I thought was a safety issue was at intersections, particularly busy intersections like Cochrane and Bower Hill, where there was usually a snowbank that, at least initially right after the snowfall, was really like no way to get from the sidewalk into the crosswalk, and particularly a street where there's pretty limited space anyway. There's like no space between the curb and the lane. That could be quite a hazard if someone's trying to climb over that bank and then perhaps slips into the roadway. And you also have a situation where people might be avoiding crossing at the crosswalk, trying to get across the street, and it just seemed like kind of lost in all the attention to getting this snow cleared was making access for these intersections. So just wanted to kind of point that out. We may not have a snowfall like this in a while, but it's still something to keep in mind, and just we would really make it more complete if we could have access to those intersections. So that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you, Dave. Can you clarify your address? Was it 651 Royce Avenue?
Royce Avenue.
Thank you. right. No other citizen comments in the room, or did we get any late additions? No? Okay. With that, I will move to the chairperson's report. I do want to commend DPW and all the folks that have been involved in snow removal, focused on the areas of the municipality where people are moving by vehicle. I think there, this is I saw that from the Weather Channel, Pittsburgh experienced, in terms of metro areas, the highest amount of snowfall in this most recent storm that they were calling Fern, and that was a significant event. So I know that puts a lot of strain on the system. So I do kind of want to build on top of Mr. Kraut's commentary, and I'm trying to find my link here, but I wanted to I'll leave out the municipality being talked about in this iteration, but we can fill in the blank later. So after the recent winter storm, the municipality prioritized plowing roads for cars while leaving sidewalks, curb ramps, and bus stops inaccessible. For me, and this is a person that uses a wheelchair, and many other residents who get around walking or rolling, the municipality remains essentially closed. It's yet another example of how the municipality's transportation decisions continue to prioritize cars over people. And that may be a little bit unfair, but that is often how it feels in their bus berms and different crosswalks. And we are a walking school district. This municipality in this case was Washington, D.C., which received less snowfall. But, we see a lot of areas clear for cars. We see parking lots that have cleared and a massive effort behind it. But I watched people sit at bus stops on Cochrane Road in mobility devices, sitting in the road and sitting in the apron of that road. That portion of Cochrane Road was repaved and addressed in a most recent iteration, and I don't believe the municipality asked for any changes along there. It's shared by Scott Road, it's shared by Mount Lebanon, but there are bus stops there. There are people walking along that road. It's mounded with 3 foot of snow. I know it's a state road, but I think this is where we really want to harness our active transportation plan, the work that's going on there. We want to harness active work ongoing elsewhere. And, I know the budget subcommittee met. I would really urge folks to look at what other municipalities are doing in terms of snow removal beyond snow removal based on cars, but also in terms of prioritizing budget within the municipality and putting a focus on people in the community. I know everyone's doing the best they can, and I think what snow events like this or storm events do is expose the cracks that already exist. Our sidewalk infrastructure is not ideal for everybody, and would just really urge everyone to kind of take a look in this when we have a chance and look out there and see what we can do better in forthcoming years. And that may involve increasing budget focused around snow removal or prioritizing areas around our schools or changing how we do it. I know areas that have higher snow events have infrastructure and equipment based around this. It wouldn't take that much to put a plow or a brush on the front of a Kubota that we already have and clear some sidewalks or priority sidewalks. So, but yeah, I do want to commend DPW. I think the roads, especially when you go into the city comparatively, are in much better shape, and we've been able to get around. But just thinking of those outside of cars, especially our kids and those using mobility devices that don't have access to a private vehicle. So with that, I will pass it to the commission.
I will second your statement that the whole staff did a fantastic job. The emergency response overall was exceptionally well coordinated. Be it from emergency management to DPW to police to fire, there was just a lot of effort that went in to the response. And I think overall, we saw how other municipalities fared versus our community, and I'm exceptionally proud of the work that they did, and it was a lot of long hours by a lot of people. Can we do better? Yeah. I think the question ultimately is, right, and I think maybe Chief Haberman will mention this, but enforcement is going to be coming on people who have not cleared sidewalks, right? Because those are the responsibility of the property owner, not the municipality. So whose fault is it, right? And how do we incentivize people to take care of their own property? Which again, maybe that's the wrong answer long-term, but that is the answer we have right now. So it's those types of questions I do think are legitimate. They're worth asking and thinking about. But again, as I was, and to be honest, we didn't get a lot of responses, or at least I as commissioner didn't get a lot of complaints. I think the one email I did see was, hey, I cleared my sidewalk, I worked really hard, and then the plow came. Yeah, I agree, but I have to make sure the ambulance can get through, right? So in that situation, we have to prioritize, right, life safety first. And then that does create the dynamic of, well, okay, the snow went on the sidewalk, and someone just cleared, and they have to now go clear it again. And I don't think we want our police to then proceed immediately to out and go ticketing people, right? That's wrong. So how do we allow space for the community to, adapt and adjust, while respecting that we do all have expectations for mobility, and need for mobility. And Mr. Igor pointed out, and the fire department has been pointing out regularly, but no one is taking us up on it. We need people to shovel around fire hydrants, but no one's doing it. Which again, it's one of those things where it's really easy to take a picture of your dog and post it on social media. It's really hard to go out and shovel 3 feet around a fire hydrant. But that's life and death, right, when there's a fire. So, again, these are things that, yes, conceptually we could raise fees or taxes and increase the amount of staff in those situations, but that's really expensive and those are one-time events. They don't happen that often, so how do we balance, right, as a community and think about those types of dynamics? But again, overall, I think, we did very well. There was concern going in about the amount of salt. That worked out. We didn't have any major emergencies that I was, aware of. Obviously, we got a lot of, typical, well, now all the pipes are bursting. So I hope you all are running your water, because fire department gets a lot of water condition calls right now. So hopefully you're all addressing that, making sure that your things don't burst. But again, there's a lot going on, and I think we overall did really well. I did not make the active transportation plan meeting last week. Seth, I know you did not either. Hopefully some of you did. I'm very curious how that is progressing, but
I have a share recording, but I don't know that we got it yet, so I'll follow up.
I did see
Okay.
some of it, yes. But other than that, commission is moving forward, right? Lots on the plate, new year. Vehicle purchases and, all the contract. This is the type of year when all the new contracts get signed. So we have to go through the process of voting on all the contracts and making sure all those things get done. So all the work starts getting scheduled for the new year. And yeah, unless you guys have questions, that's really all I've got at the moment.
Andrew, is there a routine postmortem on 2 events, 1 big snow and 2 extended period of extreme cold? Is there anything that goes on? I heard you said there were no emergencies.
Well, yeah, there was no like huge disaster emergencies. We got through this relatively smoothly, but yes, we have emergency management coordinator, and they all do coordinate. I'm sure Chief Haberman could go into it in more detail, but we just appointed a new emergency management coordinator. It's a role that sits in the fire department. So one of our deputy chiefs is responsible for coordinating, and that brings together the various, leads of the emergency response teams and DPW and senior management to basically, triage through whatever the situation is.
Yeah, okay. I noticed the front loaders were up on Washington Road clearing out the parking spots after the roads were cleared, but parking was difficult, and I have not seen that, I have not noticed that before in Mount Lebanon.
The last time it was done was during the 2010 snowstorm.
Okay.
And they hauled snow down to the parking lot in between Wildcat, down there by the turf.
My grandkids saw that.
And that pile will sit there, hopefully not past April.
Through baseball season.
But again, trying to clear uptown, right, and make it accessible as much as possible. But again, there's only so far you can go.
Yeah, they did, I assume the municipality did the same on Beverly Road and did a really good job clearing that out, including most of the sidewalks as well, so.
Question, so as far as the bus stops, that's also the response of the municipality, correct?
It depends on where the bus stop is located, but yes, it's falls in the same sidewalk duty as the adjacent property owner. It would fall under that. I did see someone make a comment that they called CVS for the bus stop there, and CVS said it was a municipality, and that's not accurate. That is on CVS sidewalk. So yeah, it falls, we have 6,500 to 7,000 bus stops in Allegheny County, and I think they are prioritizing high ridership areas. That's unfortunate because I literally see those people, and maybe our stops are not high ridership, but to those people, they are high ridership for them, they are their stops. So I think that's where investigating ideas or coming up with strategies to kind of, we have the municipality here and private property owners, and then we have snow angels, right? There's a far spectrum and gap between there. And I think most people, in the, especially the more walking focused areas, did a good job because they know that people are relying on it. But there's some rough ones where the state has essentially put 4 foot of the road on top of a sidewalk. And those are sidewalks where those adjacent property owners don't even think of the sidewalk as theirs. So they'll wait out the enforcement period and.
So I was curious if Port Authority or do they rate like how certain stops did so that, we can kind of a lessons learned to say, did we do well in our municipality for clearing public spots?
It would only come through customer service like data, and we've done PRT has done a high level study of every single bus stop, but a lot of it's based on Google Street View, so there's not anyone like actively monitoring their stops unless the operators are saying, hey, X stop is. We probably could glean through that. I could look into it a little bit more to see if they've done it.
Or even like the drivers who are on the routes, I mean, they probably know it better than anybody.
Yes,
I would
certainly.
think that like maybe like a postmortem. And again, I was just curious how we did as a municipality for our public transportation stops.
It's a fair question. I don't know that we'll be able to glean that data in a way that you would like it to be. Yeah, it is a fair question. I think we have some easier areas to maybe deal with it because we don't have cars parked on both sides like other municipalities do, where our plows have been able to clear the road, but maybe that sometimes results in more snow ending up obstructing those areas. But yeah, it's all assumptions at that point. I think it's a fair question. I'll ask lives with our transit amenities team. I'll ask her if there's been any feedback or if they've collected that.
I think between that
Yeah.
and then the fire hydrants, it's a good time now to kind of like follow up and say like, how did we do? And, get a little more information out to homeowners who happen to have fire hydrants in front of the house. Maybe they don't realize it's their responsibility. They should, but maybe they don't.
We did ours, so you're welcome. I'm in your ward, so even better yet.
Okay. Where do we have confessions on the agenda?
We'll pass that to the staff liaisons. Maybe they no. I don't know, Chief. Do you have any specifics that you'd like to?
Yeah, I mean,
highlight?
just a couple things worth mentioning. Obviously, the storm dominated the landscape this week, and again, echoing what had been said before. And I will really give a lot of prop to my counterpart and Rudy Sukol. They catch a lot of grief 364 days out of the year. And I can tell you, they did an amazing job this weekend. They really stood up to a really kind of a once in a 50-year event in terms of having the amount of snow we had in a short amount of time, as well as the amount of cold we had right after. So it was a highly complicated event when it came to response and recovery. So I really cannot say enough about that group, and they really, you ought to be proud of everything they've done. So we are, I know we, again, routine thing turned really complicated when you add a foot of snow and ice and everything else associated with it. And they made our lives a whole lot easier and everything. So everybody in that department stepped up. Nobody called off, nobody was not available, everybody was around. They knew what was coming. The residents knew what was coming. By and large, the residents cooperated, stayed off the road where they didn't need to. Everything we did in the back end and the emergency command post was all virtual. We didn't see a need to go out unless there was a need for us to as well. But I will say it was a highly complicated event. It would lend itself to the complications with the school. We had 44 crossing guard posts we had to clear in a reasonable amount of time associated with that. So all these things really were complicated as you stack them on top of one another, and you really only have a finite amount of resources. So I really have to give a lot of accolade to that group, and I don't think they get it enough, but they really did a tremendous job, as well as everybody else associated. And they really, Everybody here should be proud of everybody that worked over the last week to make everything seamless and make their lives a little easier. So with that, the only outstanding thing we have, as the commissioner mentioned, is the snow and ice. I mean, right now, it's borderline concrete on top of snow and ice. I mean, it's really complicated. We had one of our police lieutenants got out and tried to shovel and broke a metal shovel. I mean, this is a very complicated situation. I mean, you're talking about 3 days of sub-zero temperatures and everything else. So we are mindful of that as we go along and remind neighbors and remind residents. So we have a number of warnings we've issued, a number of people we're working with to clear those locations, and we'll be doing that for the rest of the week. So, and again, enforcement at this point will be in the form of tickets if they don't get it done in a certain amount of time, which we've allowed that to occur. Other than that, really, I sat in on the Active Transportation Board meeting. It was very enlightening to me. I had never really been a part of that conversation, so I found that to be interesting, sort of what the conversation that took place. So other than that, that's about all I have on our end.
Thank you, Chief. With that, unless Mr. Haberman from Gateway, I don't know if you have anything to add in the staff component, or if we have agenda items on your list.
I do not.
Okay. With that, I will move to the subcommittee reports, starting with capital budget.
Yeah, we did have a chance to meet. Beth can't be here today, but also, Lisa, I don't want to steal your thunder, but we baked cookies because she's this might be her last meeting.
So I'll be rolling off. I've served on many.
So wanted to thank everybody.
So thank you.
Man,
From my daughter, I did not bake.
thank you. I will never turn down the cookie.
So, sorry, so with that, we did meet and we will miss her, but I did, and I'm sorry for the last minute, and I don't know if Rudy's on this transportation and mobility board email.
I don't know.
Or Mickey, sorry, are you on? I don't know if Mickey's on it either, but anyway, I will make sure I get it forwarded to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, but I shared it amongst us, or Commissioner. I don't know if you're on this either, so my bad, but anyway, so
I got it.
you got it.
Important people get it.
Okay,
So
all right.
I think everybody.
Okay, so we, just going through the items, we do see Salem and Greenhurst for sidewalks in the 2026 budget. So we know that they're above the line included is how we're interpreting that. We are recommending for Beverly Road a new traffic study. We believe that the age of the old one is 2017. There's been a lot that's been going on there since that time. One of our recommendations, our thoughts, is maybe consider the limit on the number of parking passes sold for that municipal lot. I believe we may have mentioned that before. So moving on to alternatives to sidewalks, this is really Beth's passion here, but between Ella and Salem, could we think about alternatives?
Yeah.
There's a lot of community concern.
We have extras.
Anybody can help themselves. That have spoken about Ella and during school pickup specifically. So cars parked right on the crosswalk, kids just run right out, they're not looking, we don't, we just want to be able to think about, could we do bump outs, something called daylight flex posts or paint. So, we've talked about Ella a lot, we've made recommendations, I think formally. So, we'd like to move forward with exploring those. And also in general, the traffic management program, so neighborhood traffic management program. I believe when we all kind of started here, there was something shown of okay, this is what it is, but it's from 2012. We just want to have a process. Citizens come here, they have concerns. Where did it all go? Is this a document to be updated? Who should take this on? Should we have another subcommittee? These are all our thoughts.
Well, especially on that one, because so that specific document is well outdated. And it's the only one that like is really, at least we could find, that's on the website. So we were trying to understand if that's something that this committee would be a part of doing, or that we would just make the recommendation that it needs to be updated.
You want an answer?
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
All right, a couple things on that. One, I have talked to Ian about this, right? This is a planning thing. I talked to Ian about this at length. We have sketched the idea of what is this process that needs to be managed. I have gone so far as to say maybe we need to hire staff to have capacity to manage all these moving pieces, because it's not a police thing, it is not a public works thing, it is a planning thing, and we don't have capacity in planning. But that said, Ian and I had both agreed at that point that we were really hoping that the active transportation plan would help us frame all this in, and then we could take that and finalize what that process looks like. Right, as I think I probably told you all at one point or another, as I think about this, I like process. For me, people can express a concern, right? I'm concerned about sidewalks, I'm concerned about, right, lights, right? There's a variety of reasons, speeds, whatever it is, but those are, right, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but not necessarily informed opinions, they are just expressions of concern. This board is that first vetting point of, there is a concern, there is a collective concern about this right-of-way that we want addressed. Okay, what does this board do, right, to take that concern, and we get them regularly, and then move it forward in a process? What is this, again, this body is public facing, so it should be that first vetting point, but vetting against what? And then I can't expect a volunteer board to be technical experts, nor can I expect Gateway to, focus on every street all the time. So how do we balance as a community and as a municipality what all these pieces need to be, and how we need to take, wherever the street is, right, wherever the question is, from I've got a concern to, all right, we're gonna put it on the list. Okay, now we're going to actually pick it up and have a deep dive analysis of what's possible. Then we're going to recommend short-term fixes. We're going to recommend long-term fixes. We're going to, bring it back to the mobility board. We're going to, maybe the mobility board then votes on it, says, yeah, we like these recommendations, then it goes back into the Capitol for a recommendation for commission, or something else, right? But I think we need to have that clear mechanism for all these different random things that are coming at us, that allow for a clear path of discussion and clear, steps where an item goes from, I have a concern, to we have actually a viable, thoughtful solution about what might go there. And do we paint it? Do we put in flex posts? Or do we just go in and rip everything out and put in all new infrastructure? Right? That, for me, that's, I think, the question. And there's a lot of variables that go into that, and which is why I'm hoping that the active transportation plan will inform a lot of this, because there's going to be a lot of dependencies on, if it's Kelso, there are certain things, they're just in or out. If it's Lindendale, there are certain things that are in and out. If it's Sunny Hill, right, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Each street, depending on its typology, depending on, its volumes, all these factors are going to have a certain set of yeses and nos just by default. But again, we are residents, we are not technical experts. We need someone to own that kind of core process so that we can effectively engage and facilitate. This is a long way of saying, done a lot of thinking about it. Hoping that the active transportation plan informs this next iteration of discussion, where this board comes in and says, okay, here's the framework. Let's have an honest conversation about what the process looks like. Bed that down, because it's not just sidewalks, it's not just, traffic calming, it's not just,
Speed bumps and
right, yeah, right.
push posts.
Streetlights.
not just streetlights, right? It's all of this stuff. And so how do we make sure that we're not, being too myopic when someone says, I want a speed bump, we just go, no, or yes, right? Because that's the wrong answer.
Yeah, and I think we all agree. I think ultimately, though, we want to be a board that produces something that is helpful to the people that come in front of us, and that we don't just, nod our heads and
Say, yeah, that
say
sucks.
thanks, I'm glad to hear that, good luck with that.
Yeah,
We want to
right.
be able to hand them or slide across or give them a link to go somewhere that will actually step them through to make something hopefully move forward. They may not get what they're asking for, but they might get something else that
Right.
is better suited for their location.
That's exactly it. Well, and I think that's where, again, I go back to, once the active transportation plan's done, I'm hoping that we have this deep conversation, because then I also hope that at some point we have a clear process where the next step is, instead of going around your neighbor with a piece of paper and saying, here's a signature, all you gotta do is go on the website and drop your pen and say, this is who I am and I support traffic calming on my street, right? And I don't have, right, this whole, I wanna make it as easy as possible for them to express concern and the municipality to understand concern. But again, that's a structural process that has to come a few steps down the path.
In this board, I wanted to do this off the top, Mickey, but I'm bad at taking notes, and actually I just ramble off the top usually in that part. But thank you for putting that action item list together, because I think that was really helpful. And this board endorsed an update to the street design policy, which I think was a response to this lack of process, the lack of the traffic calming program. We made that recommendation, or we supported that recommendation last March of 2025. So I think a question for the commissioner is, I'm looking at future discussion session topics for the commission. Street design policy is number one. It doesn't have a date, but I think it's been on there. There's an active transportation plan update coming on 210. And then a question, this is the first time I've seen it, a review of pedestrian safety projects, either on 210 or 224. Do you have any inclination on what that is?
I have absolutely no insight.
Okay.
It is
I can speak a little bit to that, sir.
perfect.
Yeah, so, that's a comprehensive look on myself, Ian McMeans at Rudy Circle. We're just putting together sort of a comprehensive look at all three disciplines in terms of, from the planning perspective, from the public works perspective, and again, from our perspective in terms of data, crash data, that combined with, again, things such as things that were discussed previously, such as standoff times and different things like that. So we kind of dovetailed, and we are dovetailing all of that information. Again, that would be a very long and detailed report if we did every intersection, but it will be a sort of a 20,000-foot view, if you will, of sort of the collective pedestrian safety model that we have and what we see every day. And so we're just going to give a snapshot of that and sort of, from our perspective, that's what we're doing now. So we're putting that together in the background. And just again, with Rudy being out, we weren't sure when he'd be back in time. Is why the question of the date. So it may be on a later date because he's just not available.
So I think for board consideration, I would point to one, Mickey's action item list, which I think a couple of your actions live on there. Other ones we may want to bring forward collectively in future agendas to make a recommendation on. And then to that last point, I'd love to see whatever that report and output is, and maybe the board can review and provide endorsement of that work. To the commissioner's point, I've said this multiple times, I hate to keep kicking things there, but we haven't done a plan like the active transportation plan. Comprehensive plan touched and bit around the edges, but I don't know what's left in the scope of that work, if it's going to get us there, or if it just sets the framework to jump off there. And I do have inclinations around potential staff to address this, because I think we've seen it. Chief does a great job, the DPW does a great job, but nobody's focused on that aspect. And I think bringing attention to it keeps the drumbeat. Like, there's a new zoning and saldo update coming this year, so Ian's focus is going to be drawn there. There's a lot coming, and this is a place where I think a lot of people are passionate around it, but they just want to process. They want to know we're working towards something, and that I think the active transportation plan gives us that baseline start. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to answer all the questions, but I think it gives us that baseline start to build off of.
All I can say is that I have made it very clear to Ian what my expectations are coming out of the active transportation plan. And I have told them very clearly that if the consultant is not there, he needs to get them there because I will call them on the floor publicly. So I'm pushing in as much as I can.
Sounds good.
Yeah, just the last
Yep, go ahead.
couple of items. So we talked about Gilkison, and that was another recommendation, so may or may not have
And Rudy,
made that list yet.
Rudy gave us an update there. I've got it on old business, and I
Okay.
can provide an update there.
All right, and then, so we're also assuming, Andrew, that we have the 30,000 from last year, because we saw it. Same place.
I would work under that assumption.
Okay, all right, so that's cool. So we're just trying to, obviously with all these things, get thoughts of how do we spend that, so not to solve today, but, we want to talk through that. We had a question on page 43, section 1, who is the traffic signal technician? Is that you, Mike?
Oh, Jason Wilson.
Okay.
Okay,
Who's
so
Jason?
that's, so that's actually a on-staff
He's
budgeted
a
position.
public works employee.
Okay,
He's an electrician, he's certified in signals, so he does all of the standard traffic signal maintenance, anything associated with, from the radar detection, to changing signal head bulbs, to troubleshooting stuff in the controllers, plus all of the other electrical components within the municipality and buildings and everything else.
Oh, okay.
So if he gets into an issue with signal stuff, he does call in a technician from a signal contractor, traffic control and engineering. Guy's name's Dave Clark. He's been extremely helpful to Jason since he's gotten here.
Okay, yeah, we weren't clear on that one. We're never, gonna not talk about Washington Road and the signals there, but, you guys have heard us talk about that, intervals. And then lastly, Austin, we talked about an evaluation of some kind. Apparently, what's being observed is high school age drivers are speeding through there. Maybe consider those small roundabouts, that Beth had demonstrated last time she saw in Friendship Neighborhood. Oh, and one last thing I thought I had written about, community members using their own devices and tracking data somehow, so they have different apps or things that they can, capture, and then how do we, so that's what we talked about.
Fantastic. I think, I don't know that there's specific action items in there right now, but I'll certainly review, and we can review and see if there's something we want to bring forward. Or I think a lot of them are actually on the action item list that Mickey has put together, so they may just need follow-up from us to update where some of them stand, or follow-up from the staff. But
Okay.
thank you all. With that, I'll go to policy and street design.
The Policy and Street Design Subcommittee meeting for January, last month, was just me and Bob. That was all of our attendance. So it was pretty much just an informal discussion about EVs and EV charging infrastructure with respect to the zoning code and other development laws. I do remember Bob had a nice little anecdote about his condo building will not allow him to park his EV in their garage due to fire code concerns. So he parks it in the south garage, correct?
I park in the south garage, but I would not reference the folks of fire concerns. I would think that it's opinion-based.
Oh, yeah, then
Risk.
okay.
Yeah,
Fire.
it's not factual.
But I think has the fire department consulted on that, Commissioner? Like regarding, or they were doing like inspections of structures, or yeah.
I don't
Making something up.
I don't know that we have specifically, right? I think it's, at this point, right, everybody's aware of the hazards that are created with EV and EV fires. But again, if you're in a built environment, I don't know that we can, like anything, we can't say, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that in the built environment. So, but maybe you know.
No, I mean, if it's a private property, that's within the private property purview to call
Right.
in somebody. I mean, outside of it being a code violation or under the code, which I know we sort of got a brief from Rodney that right now they're sort of merging the technological part of EV with current code, and there's not a current setup established to my knowledge. So I think it would have to be your private HOA or whatever that is, would have to actually call somebody and consult them. But it's not something they would go and inspect or weigh in on.
I think Duquesne was providing a service or had been providing a service in this space.
They do.
Yep.
So there is a
Sorry.
group that specifically will advise on providing like electrification to certain areas. On a safety standpoint, the county has actually been looking at, with emergency management and other services, on like advising on EV battery storage, those type of things from an emergency standpoint. So, you know, if you have an EV, for instance, how do you respond to it from a fire standpoint? Where to, you know, how close do you want to have battery storage to certain buildings or services and things like that.
Yeah, so in the case of Washington Square condominiums, the previous fire chief did consult with us and looked at it, and there was a pinch point in the underground parking garage that is single in and out, and that led to the higher risk, plus the fire suppression system was not up to code for gallons per minute at the heads. But there is a way to deal with that, and there are more standards that are being developed, and a lot of it is being driven by the issues associated with scooters and delivery units in the New York City area in particular, where a lot of the delivery services are using the mobile bikes and replacing the batteries with less expensive batteries and plugging them in a daisy chain inside the lobby, and they catch fire, and that causes major problems.
I had, since our talk on this, I had also watched a YouTube video about bicycle production, and apparently with respect to like cheap batteries and stuff, there was a very large surge in bicycle demand during the pandemic, and a lot of manufacturers were having trouble sourcing quality parts, and so a lot of like there are people like buying a bike and then the manufacturer would just replace it, and the new bike they could tell the old bike was made with the substandard parts. So I wonder if that played a role in there too.
Sure it did, yeah. New York has been taking a lead on trying to develop more standards for the country, drawing attention to it. And it's been highlighted by the mobile bike or e-bike situation.
I did see, Bob, that you shared model ordinance from Montgomery County on EV readiness.
Bucks County, yes.
Oh, was it Bucks County? Okay.
Bucks County, and Pittsburgh has a lot written in home rule, and I cited a chapter. There's some more information to. I sent this out to you 5 minutes before. I'm not sure why you didn't master it yet. But it's out there, and there's some information that helps with what EV ready means for building code.
I think with the zoning and SALDO update, maybe that's a recommendation we can make just for that entity to look into that for inclusion consideration.
I mean, theoretically, assuming that the number of electric and hybrid vehicles increase compared to combustion engine vehicles, you would run into a situation where even a private landowner or a landlord or a condo board, even though it's their private property, if they were banning such vehicles, you'd run into a weird situation where they'd be sliding out of compliance with any minimum parking standards as fewer and fewer vehicles are able to use their spots. So, yeah, it's a little wrinkle that I hadn't considered before.
But it's a moving target, and there are standards and ways to reduce the risk and manage the risk, but it's not quite to the science yet. There's, as the chief said, there's work being done. But EV ready is, I think, something that we can be pushing forward for code.
Well, just to add to that, the one thing that we talked about, and it really was weighed upon us through inspections, is it's sort of these unfunded mandates. So what they're being very careful with balancing is saying you have to have A, B, or C, and recognizing the cost on the back end. And so I think that's really, quite honestly, what's going on, is they're saying, yes, in a perfect world, we would like, prevention of thermal runaway, and we would like to have all these countermeasures and all these things, recognizing the cost of those today are so exorbitant that nobody would be able to afford them.
Yeah.
And so I think that the hesitation in terms of if, from what I know about the situation and what we've been briefed on, it's waiting until that balance comes to a cost-effective point, and then they can recommend these
It's
things.
gonna be a while.
It's
gonna be a long while.
It's probably years away from anything being implemented into a municipal code based on what we know about just facts of life.
Well, and given that we only just now adopted the 21 code, I think. So we're a little behind.
If you have not looked at it, the only other recommendation I would make is to look at the state NEVI plan, if it had considerations in there. Originally, that was federally mandated.
Right.
And it was gonna invest strategically in specific areas, but there's been obviously pullback and rollback from some of those federal mandates.
But it did do a lot of work with charging.
Mhm.
Which was not pulled out of the funding, it's my understanding.
All right. Moving to old business, I don't know that there's any action on it, but I had Ella Street on there, and I think to the capital budget committee considerations around that, sounds like rolling that together in that area, but maybe waiting for the active transportation plan unless Mike, you haven't done anything around the L area, okay? Okay, moving to the next item, Gilkison Road. Rudy provided an update in January that actually before we received additional public comment there, they sent a letter to District 11 and the district traffic engineer, Stephanie Zolnak, in October. And he was following up on that email request for a road safety audit and said he would provide us an update when he received a response. So I'm assuming either hasn't received a response or while he's been out, maybe he got a response. But I gave him some other contacts. I do think I responded with all of you on there and gave him some other contacts if he wasn't successful. So nothing on Gilkison yet. I think that's a good starting point. An item I initially intended to have a presentation for, I've shifted to what would be an anticipated March presentation regarding the considerations around a Beverly Road Business Improvement District. And this may tie into
One second, so back to Gilkison, are you saying road diet or are you saying?
Road safety audit.
Road safety, so what's the difference?
So a road safety audit, before we would even say, hey, road diet this road, we look at it holistically to come up with recommendations, which could be inclusive of a road diet. But since it's a PennDOT District 11 road, that's a good starting point for them because we can't really,
All right.
unless we get funding, which a road safety audit helps us seek out potential future funding. It just is, it's a starting point to solutions. So,
Okay, thanks. I
yep.
want to understand that, thanks.
So yeah, it sounds like even ahead of that most recent request, the municipality requested that through District 11, and I think they're waiting on an answer. I was supposed to have a meeting in my professional career that may have been around that, but it got delayed because of the storm, so I was gonna ask the person at the MPO, the Municipal Planning Organization, because they're usually set a budget for their annual road safety audits or which ones they're gonna pursue, so.
Okay.
If Rudy doesn't get one, I'll try to seek out an answer on that one as well.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, you're saying Beverly.
Yeah, so you all talked about an updated study to that area, and I think we've talked about it a couple of different times. Maybe zooming out a little bit more, or safety study. So I was intending to bring a presentation to this board, kind of on the safety side, but also maybe on a solutions-based side of how we could pursue solutions there that are not just parking focused. So hoping to bring that in March. And then the only item I had for new business was regarding Poplar Drive, around the recommendation around streetlights. I don't have a specific recommendation other than I think more streetlights are good, but I think it does fall in the purview of Duquesne Light. But would anyone like to make a specific recommendation around that, or I did see some other concerns I had there regarding even shrubs and the lack of ADA accessibility on the sidewalk with the streetlights directly in the middle of the sidewalk. I don't know that that sidewalk meets ADA guidelines. Maybe it skirts around it. But I think just to the commissioner's point, the most simple answer would be if the light can be moved to that pole at the corner of Poplar Drive and Castle Shannon Boulevard, That seems like a merited recommendation. So I guess the motion would be make a recommendation. There's a strange mid-block crossing that has a light, but make a motion to recommend the municipality study and determine the viability of adding a street light at the corner of Poplar Drive and Castle Shannon Boulevard.
I'll second.
Any further discussion from the board?
Is the mid-street light needed?
It's unclear. It looks like it could be in response to the overgrowth of shrubs there, but it may have just been an opportunistic location. It's not clear.
So could the recommendation be altered to allow for the alternative of moving as opposed to adding a street light?
So
I think that's.
yeah, the amendment would be,
So we should probably do like a lumen study.
And if it was
Or I
moved,
don't-
the lighting in the shrubbery is fine there. If it was moved, it would work out perfect, trust me.
Yeah, because if you moved it, those trees that are there, I'm looking at the, you would mitigate that problem.
An intersection in a business district like that, or next to a business district like that, should be illuminated. We have that problem where the two intersections are offset from each other. But I don't know enough about lighting to know specifically what the best way to improve that situation would be.
unfortunately, the street view that I have access to is in 2019, and I'm curious if the vegetation that is over that intersection has been removed. I don't remember seeing it as I go through there, and that may have been the restriction of the light before,
This
so.
one's April of 25.
Oh, you got an April 25? No, it's spinning the other direction, Mike, actually on Castle Shannon Boulevard, where the gentleman suggested moving it
That's
to.
the mid-block light, right?
Yeah, oh, it looks like they cut down a tree.
This is the
This-
way we would want to move
Yeah,
it to.
exactly.
Right.
Where was the vegetation you were talking about?
It was right at that corner, but that looks like that tree's been removed for,
There's a tree there, or well, it's not.
from the one that was blocking, like that one's right. Yeah, it doesn't look like it
Driveway up.
exists anymore.
Well, from a motion perspective, I think the intent is,
Look at
we need a light.
Somebody look at it.
Look at a light at that intersection, with the potential of simply moving a light from the pole down the way.
Yeah, that. I second that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
I would like to propose a new business item. I don't know if anyone saw my email from
I
15
did.
minutes before the meeting started.
I did not get it till, you said, I got it during the meeting, John.
I sent it
You
before I
went over
left.
there during the meeting.
At 6:17 PM, I received your email.
You must have been offline.
Okay,
I did not get it.
I got it at 5:44,
okay.
That sounds right.
but I was sitting here.
So, yeah, going back to our discussion about snow removal and everything, I personally would describe our system and the system across the state as anti-resilient. We have this situation where if you have 20 property owners on a block, you're relying on all of them to clear their property. It only takes one person to, not even necessarily not clear their sidewalk, but to mess up, to break the whole network. So I'd be supportive of any, of looking into how to improve that. I know Commissioner Flynn mentioned some of the difficulties there. But in the meantime, I noticed a lot of sections of sidewalk this week where there's just one little snow blower path cleared. So you're looking 18 inches wide. And then some of the residents just on trash day just place their trash cans on that one little 18-inch clearance they have. So the current ordinance says that the sidewalk should be cleared. So it clearly people are interpreting that differently. So I was wondering if there would be a benefit to specify what that means specifically with regard to ADA compliance. I know that PROAG has not been adopted by the Department of Justice, but I believe that the municipality is still subject to the Americans with Disabilities Act. A sidewalk is supposed to be 48 inches wide with passing sections of 5 feet wide where at certain distances. So there should be the sidewalk should be cleared to either its full width or a width of 48 inches. So I looked at our code. I noticed that, I noticed that we actually have a duplicate clause where it's just that the section that says what the fine is repeated twice. So I would propose that we delete one of the redundant, I have this uploaded to the SharePoint. Delete one of the redundant fine descriptions and replace it with the following text. Sidewalks shall be deemed clear provided that 1, snow and ice are removed across a minimum width of 60 inches or the entire paved width of the sidewalk exclusive of the roadside curb, whichever is narrower. The 60 inches make sure that your passing zones are covered. In any case where you have a sidewalk wider than 4 feet. The curb is the little segment of concrete between the roadway and the sidewalk. That doesn't actually need to be cleared. So there can still be snow there. 2, snow and ice are removed adjacent to crosswalks, marked or unmarked, for a minimum length of 48 inches between the sidewalk and the roadway. And 3, snow and ice are removed across pedestrian curb ramps for a minimum length of 48 inches between the sidewalk and roadway. So that's clearing those sections that always get covered by the plows. And I recognize that it's hard to maintain, like you got to give some wiggle room. But currently people are getting creative with what it means to clear their sidewalks. So that is basic. That is actually arguably that is a lighter. If you have a wide sidewalk, technically that lets you not clear the whole thing as long as you maintain your ADA minimum. But functionally, just a clarification of what the law already means. So I think it's a good idea. We get I guess I would motion to recommend this change to.
How do you propose enforcement of this would occur?
This changes nothing about our current enforcement. This is just deleting a literal duplicate section. There are two sections that are the same. It's just deleting one or just replacing it with a definition of what if you meet these requirements, your sidewalk is clear. Because it currently says it shall be cleared. It doesn't say what clear is.
So how do you propose police officers would measure a snow width, the entire section of block? And we would then, is that what the proposal, based on the proposal, you're saying?
You're saying the inches?
If we're going to measure 48 inches as we walk down the street, is that what your proposal is?
I would let it slide if it were 42 inches close. Like snow is not, you're not measuring snow down to inches.
Well, but more to the point though, how do we understand what clear is now?
Yeah.
Well, also, you have to factor in, we declared a state of emergency on Tuesday. There are different factors that come into play once a municipality declares a state of emergency. So I would say, absent a state of emergency, you can have some of these conversations. Once you declare a state of emergency, it is life safety first. And a lot of these things really aren't priorities whenever it comes to these situations being declared. So I would say outside of a state of emergency, we can have this conversation in terms of what it is. Once a municipality declares that, your resources are then governed to be life safety and priorities of life, and then everything else falls into place. So I will say that while I understand where you're going with that and really there isn't a way to enforce something like that without a significant human resource on the back end.
I agree completely with regard to both the difficulty enforcement and the difficulties with the state of emergency. Like I was not out reporting my neighbors I haven't reported anyone actually for lack of compliance.
So to your
This week.
to your recommendation though.
This, I am not,
mean, it's already
I
on the
think that
books.
this is
Right,
already on
it's
the
already on
books
the
and it's
books,
just
yeah.
clarifying what we currently have in place. I did not, I wrote this 15 minutes before the meeting. I was not digging into the weeds of how do we fix any problems except this specific one that with the ADA compliance where we have people that are just like going once with the snow blower and saying, I'm done. That's all I'm trying to fix.
I think the language.
I'm not trying to change anything else.
You have a motion on the floor, and I'm happy to second that. Let's have discussion. We're having discussion right now. I think it's a clarification of language. It's an existing ordinance right now, but it's existing unenforceable ordinance as it exists right now. And this talks about snow emergency defined. The term snow emergency, when used in this section, shall mean the accumulation of 1 inch or more of snow. Well, okay, so that's almost every snow event we have is a snow emergency. So this is an old ordinance. It's on the books. I think the language, what we're doing is recommending a change to this language. I imagine the active transportation plan and other plans are going to address the street, because they're already recommending new street classifications. This whole section of Mount Lebanon's ordinance is going to be touched in the next 18 months, I believe. This would just fall. This would fall in those recommendations of, if you're touching this section, here's what you should talk about snow removal being. But yeah, as exists right now, it is a bit unenforceable. I do think it clarifies the language and eliminates a redundant paragraph of talking about fines twice and subsequent, so.
He's not here to defend himself, but I know the discussion has been had over the years, having lived through a few of these storms with the police department. Is this a code violation or is this a police enforceable violation?
Extremely valid question.
You know,
Yeah.
so if we want our police officers out doing life safety measures, this becomes a code enforcement.
I think it is.
Rodney's not here to defend himself, but I know
Yeah.
he's busy as well. But at what point does this become code violation as opposed to something the police are relied on to do?
I mean, I would love the police, and from an opportunistic element, if they're, because these are safety iterations. If somebody is wheelchair bound or lack of private vehicle, what have you, these are safety, life and safety for those folks that are, I'm seeing them downtown, I'm seeing them on their buses, they're counting on that. So, but in terms of investment of resources, that's a lot of resources from a police standpoint to invest there. And I do think it should live in code enforcement. What is more responsive? It's hard to say. What actually gets enforced? It probably
And that's-
depends. But it's a language change.
And it's always I got a warning, so I'm gonna report everybody on my block. And then it spirals from there, as you
And
would
then you're gonna
imagine.
have people out there with tape measures, measuring everybody's sidewalk widths.
Which I would like to say, your question about measuring was a very good one. I'm an engineer, and I as I was typing that, I was like, measuring snow to the nearest inch, that's not real. But I thought about, I'm open to any suggestions on how to improve that.
We
At the
always,
end of the day, I kind
we
of just
always
lean
rely
back on like,
passable. I mean,
I-
ADA didn't come into the decision-making process. It was, is the sidewalk passable?
well,
Passable by
18
who?
inches is
Exactly.
definitely
Exactly.
not passable by, like 36 inches is probably passable for most people. There were some of these 18-inch sidewalks that I had to take an alternate route home from the grocery store, and my wife was complaining about pushing our daughter in a stroller yesterday. So I am interested in any ideas to improve that, but I just kind of lean back on, our legal system is like descended from English common law, and at the end of the day, you're just like, somebody need, like, you can't write everything down. It's at some point, it's like close enough. Like, we like, just like, like, we don't have a fine for, we don't enforce speeding within like, 5 miles an hour or something like
It's
that.
unenforceable.
Yeah,
Locally.
It's
worth that. Yeah.
Ballpark.
Um,
No, but I think this is an interesting discussion from my perspective, because again, there is, what is the intent? Enforcement, right, is another question. That's a capacity discussion, right? And that's frankly a separate conversation of, well, who do you want enforcing it? right? And do you want to provide capacity for doing that?
Right.
Okay, well, again, right now, we could argue about, well, what is passable, right? And I could probably get somebody to go jump up and on my head and say that it's not passable, and the police aren't enforcing. Because of how one person defines passable versus another. We're always gonna get, to a certain extent, those variables, but I think the question is, is there a logical intent to modify the ordinance language, right, to make it more clear as to what passable is, or what clear is?
Clear what clear is.
Just don't be a jag-off.
Yeah, that makes it obvious.
I mean-
And put your parking Jesus out there with your parking chair.
Put yourself in a wheelchair and try to navigate these streets.
Yeah,
And I
no,
think
I totally
that's what
agree.
it,
Yeah.
I think people haven't had the lived experience. It
Yeah.
effing
Yeah.
it sucks, right? Like, so, I think the intent is to clarify clear and move in that direction. Whether enforcement happens, whether, that is a different conversation. So I think, I'm still happy to second that motion on the table
Well, I would just say that,
to
as the whole board
consider
sees-
amending of the language.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, until everybody has seen the language and seen the proposed changes, I wouldn't vote on actual proposed changes. I would say, look at it and bring forward final proposed language for next month,
That sounds
knowing that it will go through another round of iterations.
Well, and the solicitor and any
Right.
ordinance change is gonna
Right.
go through a couple layers, so.
I don't want you guys to vote on something that you're not all like, yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, John put this in the, transportation board place, and I would just encourage the board to go look at it, so I don't think we need to make a formal recommendation. We can review final language at the next month's meeting, and I'll ensure it's on the old business item. So. Any other new business proposals? I promised Taryn we were gonna do it, so I would like to make an announcement of the next regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, March 3rd at 6 PM in this same location. And with that, I would like to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Sorry, I needed to see who here has any connections with Duquesne Light that I can follow up on.
I don't work there anymore.
I'll talk to you after the meeting.
You guys can talk offline. Is there a second to adjourn?
Second.
I'll second, yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. We did it, Taryn.
Thank you, Seth. That was actually my name.
Yeah.
Under
I think-
Sweetheart.
Bob, I might